everyone, and welcome to another episode of Legends of the Spire. Thanks for watching or listening. On the podcast today we have Chris Marples. Now I think he's the third goalkeeper we've had on the podcast now, but the first cricketer, so that's breaking new ground, as he played for both Chesterfield and Derbyshire, a lot of it at the same time. He had two spells at Chesterfield in the 1980s and 1990s, so good to speak to him about the similarities and differences in his two spells at the club, and also some really fond, funny memories as well, including things like spraying the balls orange, as they only ever had one, and the very common talk about having to find a training ground somewhere, which a lot of players always comment on. As always, we are at Spire Legends on Twitter and Legends of the Spire on Facebook, so please do get in touch. We're also legendsofthespire at outlook.com. So if there are any ex-players watching this and you'd like to come on and have a chat, please do. I'd love to hear from you. So here we are with the latest episode of Legends of the Spire with local boy Chris Marples.
Legends of the Spire!
So you're obviously Chesterfield born and bred.
Yes, yeah.
And, but it took like a while for you to end up becoming a Chesterfield player, didn't it? There was like...
Yeah, it did. I mean, it started when I played Chesterfield schoolboys. And at that time, I went to Rotherham as a schoolboy. So I signed blue forms there at Rotherham with Jimmy McGuigan. He was manager at the time, ex-Chesterfield. So, yeah, I went there and was there for schoolboy, and then got released there as an apprentice. I didn't get an apprenticeship there. And at that time, Ian Porterfield had gone into Rotherham at that time, and didn't fancy me. So it was right. What do I do now? And then I went to playing non-league and stuff. I played with Kevin a bit at Goole, Kevin Randall.
Yeah.
Played with him at Goole, and then it just went from there. I was on amateur at Bradford City, and we played Chesterfield. Obviously, John was there, and I did okay. And then I think Paul Gregory, who actually left. He actually left Chesterfield, and he left Chesterfield with just Jim. And I was asked if I wanted to sign a contract. I'd signed a pre-contract for cricket at that time. So I knew I was going to cricket in April, on April the 1st. And I was just signed there at Chesterfield, probably just coming for Jim, who just took over the commercial role. So it was dual role at that time. So, he was training Thursdays and doing his commercial job. So, so that was basically how I came across, and I'd be 19, I think, at that time. So I'd been playing non-league a little while at Goole, and I was still playing Sunday football at Brampton Rovers. So obviously Al used to come and watch us there. Big Al used to come and watch us at that time at Brampton Rovers on Sundays. So, and then I got offered a contract. Unfortunately, Jim got injured after about 4 or 5 weeks. I think he played the first 4 games. And Jim got injured in training on a Thursday. And I went in training on a Friday, just as a normal. Just thought do some training, and got told that I'd be playing on Saturday at Bury. So it came about. It was a while, and it was good. It was good.
Did you have a conversation at the time about still wanting to play cricket and kind of keeping your options open?
Yeah, they knew that cricket had got priority. So they got priority cricket. So from April, Kevin and John both knew that cricket was a contract what was pre-signed. So my contract actually ran till April the 1st. And then as a retainer, my retainer was £1 a week until July the 1st, when obviously contract thingy. So I was on £1 a week from April. That was my contract, and my wage was minimal anyway. I mean, it was a minimal wage. Got a lot of help from my mum and dad. I mean, obviously living at home at that time, used to borrow a tenner off my dad and never pay him back. So it was that I was 40 quid, and I think the win bonus at that time was £90 a win. it was £30 a point. So that was, we were looking for wins all the time. I was, and my appearance was that as well. So that made me money up. You know, I mean, it was just that made me money up, my appearance and a victory. If we could get a victory, so 2 victories in a week, that was fantastic, man. It was really good. Yeah, it were. I could go out a couple of times a week then. So yeah. So, but no, I mean, without my mum and dad's help, I never paid no board or anything like that. It would have been hard. And as I say, from April the 1st, in the daytime, I went training with Derbyshire, and that's how it happened, really. So yeah, so I went training with Derbyshire, and then they knew I'd got games. I was in the start of the second team at cricket as well. And that I'd got to sign a 2-year contract at Derbyshire at that time. So they got preference for 2 years. And then after the first season, after promotion, then they offered me a new contract. Again, weren't massive, but again, bumped up by appearance money and things like that. But yeah, so that's how it all came about. And cricket at that time didn't overlap. They didn't overlap as much. I think the season started mid-April, end of April probably. And the football season finished first week in May, so there was hardly any lap over time. Unlike now, I mean, you know, it's massive now, and you're probably a month or 2 in, and they're still playing. So I think that's one of the reasons why nobody's done it since.
So, and then you ended up keeping a clean sheet on your debut, didn't you, against Bury? Yeah,
Leighton James, he played for Bury at that time. Yeah, and it was a strange one because I was nervous. I was very nervous, and John said to me the night on the Friday, he said, "What do you usually do on a Friday?" I said, "Well, I usually go to." We lived at Stretton that time, just through Clay Cross. We lived at Stretton, and I said, "Well, I usually go for a pint down at a pub called Hideaway. It's no longer there now, so I usually go down there." And he said, "Well, just do what you normally do." He says, "But I says, yeah, okay." And to be fair, it was great because I just went out, had a couple of pints. Relaxed myself on the train, on the coach journey, obviously with some characters, what we got there. I got pissed out of me quite a bit, to be quite honest, you know, so because they could see how nervous I was. But yeah, I mean, I had a game and everything turned out right for me that day. I stopped everything. So yeah, to go in then and make a clean sheet on your debut, and that was followed by another 27, I think, that season. So yeah, great season.
Did you find yourself finding your feet really quickly then in just playing?
Yeah, I did. I mean, because obviously, as I say, Jim wasn't training in the daytime anyway. He only trained on Thursdays with the amateur lads at that time. So I was training with the first team every time. So I was training all the time with the first team. So yeah, I found and I got to know the lads. I was only there about 3 or 4 weeks before I actually made my debut, so I weren't in there long. But yeah, it just Wallace came, and the lads all took me on board. I mean, as I say, there's some big characters at that time. So and yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah, and like the defence in that, because obviously you won the league that season, which is a bit bonkers this season. And
it were you know, everything, it was bonkers. Everything was happening fast. I'd gone from wanting to be a cricketer, and that was always going to happen. You know, I mean, they made it clear at Derbyshire that when Bob Taylor retired, that I was going to be keeper or second keeper, and everything was happening too fast. Everything happened very, very fast. So I signed my contract there, pre-contract, got in the side at Chesterfield after 4 games, stayed in the side all season. Then I started training, going to cricket, and then coming back and training in the afternoons or Fridays or whatever, and doing some goalkeeper practice. And then, as I say, the games, and they just kept coming, and they were coming. And then, yeah, everything was happening quick. And by the end of, you know, when we got promotion and going for promotion, it was as though everything was just happening miles quicker than what probably should have done. You know, I mean, how many people in the first season, you know, end up winning a championship medal? You know, it was just an amazing feeling, and being a Chesterfield lad as well, being part of the town and being a supporter and watching the guys in 70. I mean, I was only 6 at the time. I can recall them winning the championship with Ernie in that side, and then to be playing with Ernie as well. Fantastic. Yeah, really something what I really enjoyed.
And who were the players in that squad that you really enjoyed playing with, or the ones that looked up to, the ones that gave you advice?
Well, Ernie was just a first-class pro. Everything he did, and I'd known him through Jeff as well, through Jeff Miller. So so I had that connection there. So I used to go down to the shop and get my stuff from there. But Ernie he'd been in there. It's very similar. I mean, I think Ernie was very similar to me. He came from playing non-league and went in, and I think he won, championship as well, early doors and things like that. So, yeah, he was one who you actually looked up to. But the characters of them all, there were some real big characters. I mean, John, I've said to John numerous times after, however he handled us or handled the lads who were there, I don't know. I mean, Fergie, he came halfway through the season from Swindon, I think it was, from somewhere on loan, I can't remember where it was. Southend, I think he came from Southend on loan. But then Gary Bellamy was full-back to start with, Sean O'Neill left-back, and then you got Bainsey and Les. And, I remember watching second team games, reserve games at Chesterfield when Les were playing there. So he was a Chesterfield lad, no, not a Chesterfield lad, but he'd been down there from a very young age. And remember watching him. And then in midfield, you Steve Spooner, who I later played with again at York. He's big in coaching now. I think he's at Birmingham now. So, it was big players. Mick Henderson, John Matthews, who obviously played with Arsenal. And Steve Kendall, who again, fantastic player. Fruit Loop, crackers, crazy, but a great player. And then three up front. I mean, there was Wack up front, Phil Walker and Newt and Ernie, and that was, we didn't really. Oh, Phil Brown obviously as well. I mean, I forgot Brownie. I mean, Brownie was a young lad as well, and I mean, they put him in charge of penalties, and his blood was like ice. He just never missed. I don't think. I think he just at crucial times when we're 0-0 and we needed a win, and he'd come up for a penalty and take it and slot it away as though he'd been there playing years and years. So yeah, so Brownie was one as well as Phil.
Yeah, and what was the training like? Did you were you a good trainer or not?
No, was I a good trainer? I love goalkeeping training. I hated running. Anybody will tell you, I must have been the worst runner ever. And I was in. There were times when I was in what we called the gospel squad, where we used to go in on Sunday mornings, especially if you wasn't in the side. You'd get drafted in to do some running. But no, when we were running in pre-season, I hated it. I couldn't stand running. I hated it. And I used to say numerous times to Dunks, oh, this will stop ball going in net, this will running this will, and I just could not stand running. I hated it. No, it was just something what I didn't. Yeah, training was very much. It was very much the same thing, repetitive. A lot of things were repetitive. We got a guy in, a trainer. He was a veteran athlete, John Tivy, a guy called John Tivy. And he came in, and I don't know how John got hold of him, and Kevin got hold of him, but he was from Derby, and he used to come in occasionally and take a training session. And he gave us these sessions, and the gaffer used to do the same warm-up training session every single day, without fail. At that time, we were training up at Chesterfield School, and we used to have to. We could tell what we were going to do every time. And we did the same routine every single day. So very repetitive there. And we did a lot of shadow play as well. We did a lot of shadow play and playing against the second team lads. But we're doing a lot of things like, what we were doing. And I know there were times when we was defensive, but we was aware of what could happen. John he was fantastic in the way he wasn't one who wanted to concede. He loved a 1-0. He loved a 1-0. And, we used to joke that we used to defend off his own corners and his own throw-ins. And we did in ways. I mean, a particular time where it must have been later on, for probably Friday. We used to go down to Piccadilly and train down there on a Friday. And I remember this particular day, Newt says, we were just defending here. We're just defending off his own free kicks and off his own corners. And we're defending and off his own throws. Everything we did, we defended. We've got to be aware. And I remember they were playing this ball. They played this ball up to Newt. And he kicked it onto the road and ran to fullback. And John said, "Hey, well done, Newt, well done, Newt." And he's just kicked ball over the thing. But no, a lot of laughs at that time. As I said, big characters, big characters, strong personalities, but great players. And we had a good team, I think, there at that time, and worked hard and they all worked for each other.
Yeah. And what was it like lifting the trophy at the end of the season? Because this obviously still the video on YouTube looks like good fun.
Yeah, I mean, we had a week into the season. We had a week where we went to Darlington and we went to Hereford, and they were both above us at the time. I think we were sitting third, and they were both above us, but only just or something round about that. And we went to Darlington, won 3-1, and it was a quagmire and big following. We had a big following in it, and we went there and won 1-0, 3-1, and it was a real good performance. And then on the Tuesday, we was away at Hereford, and we went there and won 1-0, and we went top from then, and we never gave it away. From then on, it was we won 1-0 there, and from then on we was in the top all the time, and we secured promotion at it might have been before, but I remember going to Peterborough. I think 2 games from the end. Again, I think it was a 0-0 or 1-0. I'm not sure. We might have drawn. And the crowd there was in fancy dress. And before the game, they all came on the field. And to be fair to the Peterborough, they let them, Peterborough guys, they let them come on. There must have been 100 in fancy dress, and they're all the supporters on the field. And yeah, it was something where we knew that we was promoted, and we got promoted that day, I think. And I remember I think they had a separate bus for the players' wives and girlfriends and the children's and stuff, and I think they had a separate bus. And but I think Barry Hubbard at that time, I think he was going away, or he was going out that night. So we wanted to stop for a beer on the way back, and he wouldn't do it. So he just went. So we after promotion, we got on the bus and we went straight back home and went back to Chesterfield. But so yeah, and then the final, obviously Rochdale away at home, the last game. I don't know what the crowd was. There must have been 7,000 or 8,000 there. It was crazy. And then for them again to draw, I think we drew again 0-0. But again, they came on the field, and this photo is what we've got now. We've seen it, and for me personally, it was just an unbelievable feeling. At Chesterfield, born and bred, watched them all my life, first season, and there we go and get a promotion, and to play with some of the guys I played with at that time, it was fantastic. It was really something else. And I know when you see these photos, there only seems to be me who's got the trophy. We had a photo took in the dressing room. I've got it, and then I see that we're in the stand and looking down, and there's me got the trophy again. I don't think I'd let it go. I wanted it. I know we did a lap of honour, and before we picked the trophy up, I think it was, and when we did this lap of honour, we was all fully kitted going out, and I came back. I'd got nothing on. I'd got a pair of slips on. That's all I'd got on, just a pair of slips and just underpants, So I gave it all away, and then we had to go up and collect the trophy. And I got another pair of shorts, and I remember picking trophy. I got a scarf around my neck and a bare chest, a bare everything, just a pair of shorts. I think that's all I got on. My boots went, my socks went, shorts went, the top went, everything.
Was it around that time when you got the nickname Jed then as well?
No, that was before. It was that time. It was that season. It was Bob, and I had the first car I had was an Escort Mark One, and it weren't a new one. Obviously, being on 40 quid a week, it weren't a new one, and what happened were I don't know, I'd reversed somewhere into a brick wall, and the boot came up, and I couldn't lock the boot down, and I went to my granddad's farm. He got some baler twine, and I tied it down with baler twine. And Newt come and he says, "You look like Jed from Illybillies." And from then it stuck, and it stuck right throughout, right then into cricket. Obviously Jeff had got on it, and so it was through cricket and everything, and it's just stuck. It's never got away from me. So yeah, it was a Mark One Escort, a yellow Mark One Escort, which had we'd had bucket seats and sports wheels and everything in it. It was just the car really what made it, and the nickname stuck, and it stuck ever since.
You played I think about 38 league games or something that first season.
Yeah, the first season, 38 league games, and I think 28 league clean sheets.
Yeah,
26 clean sheets or something in that season.
Yeah, and then that second season, it was like about 30, around about the same, wasn't it? About maybe a couple less.
Yeah, probably may have been a couple less. I think. I don't know why. I know I got injured when in the first season. I had a car accident. We travelled back from an FA Cup game at Walsall, and I had a car accident driving back home, and I injured my shoulder, and I missed 2 games and I came back Boxing Day against Mansfield. I had cortisone injections to get me right from there, but I missed Rochdale away and another game. I can't remember who it was, but I missed a couple of games then. But yeah, so and then the second season, as I say, I mean, that's then now when I'd got in the cricket team as well at that time. As I say, they got preference. So whether I missed a few at the start of the season, I'm not sure. It might have been due to cricket, because I was in till the end of the season. And I remember we was playing Leicestershire at Queen's Park. I think that might have been the last game of the season. And I was playing on the Saturday against Bournemouth. And I think it was a midweek game, so it must have been a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday game against Leicestershire in Queen's Park. And at cricket, it was a lot different to what it is now. So after the game, you'd have a beer waiting for you. You'd have a drinks list. The 12th man would get a drinks list, and the drinks list would be like bitter, lager, blitter, lager. There was no energy drinks at that time. Everything was a good drink. And I remember coming off the field. I think it was the second day, so it must have been the Thursday. And Dunks and Rando were there. They would come down to watch, and they said, "You need to go up to ground after to do some training." So as soon as I came off the field, I had to leave my drink and go up to the club and trained up at the ground. On my own, they brought a few apprentices in to do some shooting. And I think it was Bournemouth at home. I think we played Bournemouth at home at that time. And then that day, Michael Holding came to pick me up from Saltergate, and he drove me to. It was at Southampton for the played Hampshire in a John Player televised game the next day. So that's how it was. It was moving from one to the other. But fantastic. So you'd play one day and then go the other, and then I played a game. It was my last championship game. It was Lancashire at Buxton. The last time the game was played at Buxton, we played Lancashire. And then that day I played against Derby County that night in the Derbyshire Centenary Cup. So, so I played cricket actually on the same day once. So that was, although it wasn't a league game, it was the Centenary Cup, which was classed more, at that time more of a pre-season, I think. I'm not sure.
Are there any... Because it seems like if you think in terms of common sense, that being a wicket-keeper and a goalkeeper would be share a lot of similarities, but there's obviously a lot of differences as well in terms of size of the ball, the speed of it, and all that kind of stuff is a lot different, isn't it? But did the two disciplines kind of help each other in a way?
Yeah, I think so. I think Although diving's a little bit different. When you dive at cricket, you're more or less diving belly flop. So you're diving with your belly forward. When you're diving at football, you're obviously going on your side. But I learned one or two things like with cutting handle down. Like when I first started, I used to dive back at an handle because I felt that it gave me a little bit more time. But then I realised that I'd given them a bigger handle. So I actually tried to dive forward. So from a standing position, rather than dive straight or behind, I actually tried to dive forward. And I think that helped a little bit. So I picked up things from both. And, you know, when people were doing fielding and you talk to them, you know, at cricket when they were doing fielding and, yeah, they were doing that. And I spoke to Bob Taylor at cricket as well, who was coaching at that time. And I'd suggested to him, what about, and he wasn't a fan of diving forward. He felt that I'd got to go belly flopped because it got your hands out of the way because you didn't want your elbow hitting the floor and it coming out. So similarities, yeah, but differences as well. You know, it was a bit of both really. But no, the kind of just hand-eye coordination, I suppose. You know, on both. But yeah, big ball and a little ball. I sometimes wish that they'd have bowled one of them big balls at me rather than a cricket ball.
At this time of the year, Chris Marples doesn't really know what to wear. Should it be the red jersey? Or maybe it's the day for the white sweater. Sometimes it can even be both on the same day. You see, by day, Chris is a Derbyshire cricketer, clad in the traditional whites. But by night, he can turn into a footballer, hence the different coloured jersey for his job as Chesterfield goalkeeper. He won a place in the first team early in the season. This week helped them to become fourth division champions.
Yeah, it's been tremendous, really. You know, Monday we won the championship. Tuesday I had a bit of a break, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday I've got Yorkshire at Chester, and then Saturday celebration time here against Rochdale.
It's a little-known fact that no one has ever kept goal for a professional club and kept wicket in county cricket. So is Chris on the threshold of making history?
And you mentioned some of those games in that second season. So it was like, I think it was like Reading, Plymouth, Derby that were kind of leading the way in that like second season that you had at the club. And against Derby, I think drew away and won at home, I think, that season.
Yeah, I think it was 0-0 away from home, baseball ground, and a big crowd there, obviously the sport that they got. And I know I've got friends now in the game or out the game who were Derby supporters. And although they went up, you know, I always do say that we took 4 points off you. The Derby away, I think, yeah, 0-0, I think. We came under a bit of pressure, had a decent game, I think. We had which you're going to do against some of the players, what they got in at that time. And then when we played them at home, a 1-0 victory on a pitch which had everything. It had the cop end where the sun never got on the ground. It was hard. It was rock hard. So that was bottoms wise and like wearing Astra boots in there when I played that. Down at the other end, they put some salt in the area. So it was more of a sludgy type of an area. Down the wings where the main stand were, that was ice. That was just ice. That was all white with ice. And on the other side was probably hard, but chance of a little stud. So the footwear, what everybody wore that day was unbelievable. Everybody wearing different. I wore bottoms at the top end and shorts at the other end. We had orange balls that day because obviously and we'd only got one orange ball. Mitre multiplex at that time. The league didn't provide you balls, I don't think, at that time. Well, they certainly didn't provide orange ones. And we only had the one. And we trained with that, and we played with it, and we did everything with it. And on the match day, I think we were with the multiplex ball, Mitre Deltas, I think we were using at that time. Kev sent one of the apprentices down to Alford's and bought some orange spray pen. And he literally sprayed the balls orange. He played two, and I remember him saying, you know, please don't just kick the ball out of the ground. He says, because if we do, we've only got that one. And I think they had a through ball, and I came out and kicked it over Cross Street, over Yeah, it must be not cross street. The one on the side. What was that called? I can't remember. Down the side, opposite side to the main stand. I keep going there.
Street side.
Yeah, and the apprentices were just running around straight away to try and get this ball on, because when they actually brought the new ball, when they actually brought a ball what was painted on, the paint were coming off. So this is what it was like. People talk about when clubs have no money, and we certainly didn't. And I know Kev, he actually made a point of saying that when the injured lads was injured and they went for ultrasound, this was the season we went up and the season after, they went for ultrasound, and in this ultrasound head, there's a crystal. And this crystal was so many £100. So they didn't have one. So that machine was just an hot piece of metal. When he put some gel on, he was just rubbing it up, thinking that you were having ultrasound in your injury and you're having nothing. And he didn't tell us till after. And that's how bad the club was at that time.
Yeah.
As I say, having to paint balls for match days. It was crazy, really. When you think back to what it was like, and training grounds. We go. The first season we weren't so bad. We went to Chesterfield School. I don't know what happened there, and we used to use Piccadilly, and then we used to use Grassmore Training Centre a bit later on. So we used to use that one, and anywhere and everywhere. We'd go anywhere. We'd go Wasp Nest. We'd go up there. Three Corner. We'd go up there. We'd go anywhere there were a piece of ground. We'd go and train on it. And we'd have loved a training ground, but we just not got one. There's just nothing for it. And you'd start training, and somebody would say you can't come on here. We've got something going on for. A school might have been going on. And we even went into schools and have an open training day on a Thursday or a Friday. We'd have an open training day on a school, and that was just. It wasn't for the school. It was just for us because we'd nowhere else to train. Yeah. And they asked the schools if they'd like us to come and train on their facility. It's only because they got grass. That's what we did. Train on the pitch occasionally, quite a bit. We'd train on there occasionally, but no, anywhere and everywhere training wise. But that was all part of it. That was all part and parcel. Everybody knew where we stood. And everybody knew that's what it was like.
Yeah. So you kind of spent 3 seasons, and then you ended up getting sold to Stockport, didn't you? Was that the point where the club were having to sell people? And
no, I'd fell out with John. I'd fell out with John and Kevin, and I remember him saying I was in the side. We got a training session, and we just played Notts County and somebody else, and we drew both games either 1-1 and 0-0, 2 games, and we was playing Blackpool in midweek and on a Tuesday night, and on the Monday, Jim turned up for training, and when Jim came for training, he never trained, so you knew something was happening, and I says, "Hey, Jim, what are you doing here?" Because he'd do his work and then he'd come down after we got down there, so we were all down at training ground, and Jim would come down, and I says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "I haven't Gaffer said anything." I went, "What?" And he said, "No." He says, "Oh, I don't know." So anyway, I said to Gaffer, "So what's going off?" And he says, "I'll see you back at club. I'll see you back at club." And to be fair, I was a bit hot-headed, and I just got in my car and drove back to the club and waited for him. I went and had a shower, just walked off training. I was a bit upset. I walked away from training, which I shouldn't have done, and I did do, but that was my hot-headed then. And he said that he thought I was going to make a mistake. Not that I had, that I thought I was going to make a mistake. So we fell out. We fell out big time. And then at that time, Phil Brown and Ernie gone to Stockport. And Stockport at that time were fighting relegation out of the league. It was the first season that somebody went out of the league. And Colin Murphy was there. He was the manager. And he must have spoke to Ernie and he must have spoke to Brownie. And it was getting towards deadline day. And he said, "What do you think?" He says, I got called back in. I wasn't playing first team. So I wasn't happy. I wanted to play football and I wasn't happy. And he says, we've been offered some money from Stockport. We want you to go. And I says, well, what are you going to give me for going? Which he was like stunned back. And he says, nothing. He says, but you're not going to play here. So anyway, so I said, well, I'm not bothered. If you're not going to give me everything for going, I'm not bothered. And Colin Murphy at the time, he was on his way because he was on his way up, and they must have got in touch, and he said, look, he's not bothered. He says, get him on the phone. So Colin spoke to me, and he says, what are you after? I said, I'm just after some money for going. I said, I've been here. I said, I've been on small wages. I've not been on big weight money. I said, they want me to go. They want to bring somebody else in, obviously. It's deadline day. It's nearing on deadline day. So I want something for going. And I said, I've still got my contract left. I've got a year, I think, on my contract left. And I says, you know, so I'm not prepared to go. And he said, well, I'll give it you. And to be fair, Colin just signed a cheque himself and gave me what I wanted. So as I say, I went up there and signed for Stockport for 12,500. And I think they were like 9 points adrift. Colin Murphy was absolutely crazy. I know a lot of people see his programme notes.
Do you think your messages are getting across? Because they are a bit obscure, aren't they?
Well, I don't know. I think in this job, sanity is a strange thing. You can quite easily go around the bend, and the secret when you go around the bend is you've got to come back. Now, I think I went around it once in this job, and I've come back and I'm still here, so they can't be that bad.
I've read your programme notes. What about your team talks? Are they as baffling?
Well, I really think it don't matter how you talk to a team. I'm convinced about that over the years. The only thing that matters is it's what they do between 3 o'clock and 20 to 5. You really can do what you like with them during the week, and you really can say what you like to them in a team talk. Now, if that makes them run around like deranged ferrets for an hour and a half, you've done the job, haven't you? Because they win.
But where we'd done the repetitive stuff at Chesterfield training-wise, we did it at Stockport, but we did twice as much. We got a theory that they can't score if it's in our half. So the back line was told to kick it to Ernie. And Ernie was coming towards the end of his career, and we just had to kick the ball to Ernie. And what he did, it got Les Robinson as well, who was a Mansfield lad. He'd been at Chesterfield as well. It signed him from Mansfield, and Les could run, and a guy called Levi Edwards, and they were our midfield, and they could run for fun. I mean, they do it at Stockport. We did a 12-minute run virtually every day. So you used to go in and a 12-minute run, and your socks couldn't be by ankles. You got to tie your socks up for training, and you'd go on the running track out around the ground, and you'd do a 12-minute run. And now Levi and Les used to lap me twice. In 12 minutes, they would lap me twice. Not once, they'd lap me twice. So they'd be doing 12 laps, minimum 11, 12 laps, you know, a minute lap over 12. And I'd probably be doing 9, something like that. And they'd be catching me on the third. And honestly, it was, well, we did that every day. And there was 9 points adrift. I think it was like 12 games to go. And my debut there was at Stockport, a real windy night. It was Cambridge City away. Cambridge City at home, Aisley Park. And that time, the Aisley Park, it wasn't the new stand what it is now. It was just like an hut, like a cow pen. It was very high. It was corrugated iron. It was, and this particular day was windy, and we're defending the wind first half. And I remember after 20 minutes, I think we were 2 or 3-0 down. After 20 minutes, bottom of the league, 9 points adrift, and I thought, what have I done? What have I done here? I've come here. I've been in the league for 2.5, 3 years, and I'm going to go straight out of it. And we came out second half, and the crowd behind Stockport, they're another fantastic group, and you know the passion what they shown was you know they're a good bunch of supporters. And I remember I used to shield my 18-yard box when play was in the opposite half. Well, I remember taking a goal kick first half and giving away a corner. The wind was strong, that strong. I kicked it and it blew straight behind me for a goal kick, for a corner. So that was the kind of weather it was. It was the wind was unbelievable. Second half, I'm patrolling the edge of my box, and the groundsman and one of the groundsman, and I think it was the groundsman, and the steward says, "Chris, move forward, move forward." And the actual roof was actually lifting off the stand. And it was going to blow one way down towards me. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know what I've done. And we ended up winning the game 4-3. We ended up winning the game 4-3. And then, you realise what we've got. And Colin, he was adamant that we was going to get out of it. And we went on a run. Not the prettiest football. As I said, he was going to, I remember when we did get safe, he said, he got hold of the mic, and the supporters were going crazy that from being 9 points adrift, 13 games to go, I think it was 2 games before the end of the season, we were safe. Don't get me wrong, I mean, we went to Crewe Alexander and we were 5-0 down at half time. So we did have those ups and downs, but the resilience from the players to get away and get away from the bottom was unbelievable. And when we actually were safe, I remember walking into the dressing room, and all the kit was out. All the kit was out, all around the dressing room. Everybody's kit, the match kit was out. And he says, "Right, get changed, boys." And we got changed. And he dropped us off at top of Stockport shopping centre. And he says, "I want you to get up and walk down that shopping centre." And we all had to walk down the shopping centre in the middle of Stockport, full kitted, and walk down the shopping centre. And he says, "And you feel proud of what you've done here, you lads?" He says, "You've got them out." He says, and we did. And he picked us up at the other end. And we had to walk through the shopping centre, fully kitted, to make sure and make the people know. And it was crazy. And he got the bike, and somebody shouted, he says, "People's asked me what we're going to play next year. We're going to play some different type of football." And he says, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do next year. I'm going to kick it higher, and I'm going to kick it harder, and I'm going to kick it longer." And they just went ballistic. They just wanted results. Yeah, then that was my time. I actually won player of the year. I played every game there, and my contract was up, and I decided I was going to look elsewhere. I'd made my mind that I told him that I was going to go elsewhere. He told me that there'd been some interest from other clubs, notably York City, where I went next. And he said to me, "I've been offered some money. Are you keen?" I said, "I'm not going to stay here, so I will go somewhere." And they sold me to York City for, I think, 28,000-30,000, something like that.
That was a record for them, wasn't it, for buying a goalkeeper or something like that?
Yeah, I think so. That level, yeah, it was quite a bit. I remember York City at that time. They'd been having it tough. And Bobby Saxton was manager, and he bought 3 players. Bobby bought 3 players. He bought myself, and he bought Steve Spooner. That's when I met back up with Smith. He bought him I think he paid about 30,000 for him as well from Hereford. And he bought a centre half called Kevin Smith, who was at Darlington when we got promoted. He was at Darlington, and he'd been at Coventry that time. And he'd been at Coventry, although he didn't play in FA Cup final. Smith had got Smudge had got all the kit. He got golf bag with FA Cup final winners on and stuff like that. And he never kicked the ball for him, I don't think he played much. And he bought him as well for 30,000. So he spent 100,000. And in, would it be 88? That's a lot of money for a third, fourth division club to spend 100,000 on 3 players.
Yeah.
It was a lot of money. And we went there, we did the pre-season. We went to Edinburgh for pre-season. We had a few games over there, and Sacco loved his golf, so we played golf every day. We only trained in one and golfed afternoon. Went for 5 days, and he'd take us out for a beer after. And we actually all went to see Michael Jackson at Roundhay Park. I don't know how that came about, but yeah, as a group, we all went. And Sacco, I remember Bobby Saxton. He was like dancing to Michael Jackson, 70-odd-year-old bloke dancing about. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And again, another good club. They treated me really well. And I spent three and a half seasons there. As I say, loved it. The lovely place to play football. Crowd was really good. I got in the PFA team of the year over there. Won the player of the year over there. Played three and a half years. Probably 3 full seasons, and then Dean Kiley took my place there. He came in, Northern Ireland international, who
Great.
went on playing Premier League with Charlton, and he took my place. And then it was always going to happen. It was always going to happen. You know, a great keeper, a good keeper, and at some stage it was going to happen. And I went out on a loan. I went on a loan move just before coming to join back to Chesterfield. I went on loan to Scunthorpe. And unfortunately, that was with Bill Green, another Chesterfield ex-player. He was manager at the time, unfortunately no longer with us. Bill signed me on a month's loan. Scunthorpe was actually going for promotion. They were right up there. And I got sent off in my first game and got banned for 3 weeks. So I went on a loan for a month and only played 1 game and was sent back. So yeah, I got sent off against Burnley as well. Things happened against Burnley. But yeah, so that was my time there at York. But yeah, great. Again, you know, I feel for them now. And when I look back now, you know, the 3 major teams who I played for, all good souls, good clubs, all had difficulties. And then obviously, you know, I came back to Chesterfield. It would be 92, I think.
Yeah, 92, wasn't it? Yeah.
92, yeah. So I'd spent 4 years at York. And that was another one where I didn't expect it. I didn't know anything about it. Chris McManamy was in charge. I think Mick Marty got injured when Chris McManamy was there. Mick Marty got injured, and I think it was Christmas time. I think I made me return day, but I think it might have been Boxing Day. I think it might have been against Doncaster Boxing Day. And I came on loan. And after a month's loan, I was asked to sign again. And a massive wage cut, I might say. Again, local lad coming back to his local side. All I want to do is play football. And Norton Lee chucks me bills in front of me. Norton Lee took over as chairman at that time. He's chucked bills at me and said, "Have you seen how much it costs to switch these the electric bill here? Look how much it costs to switch lights on." And you know, and have you seen this? And have you seen that? Look at cost of this. And he was going through all paperwork like that with me. And so I said, so when we came to money, I think I must have dropped about 200 quid a week. Just to play. I just wanted to play. I just wanted to come back. I just wanted to come back to my place, to my town, to my club. I wanted to come back. And I signed then. And then it weren't long after that Chris got the sack. And John came back in. And that's when we had a laugh. I mean, remember, obviously, Sim said we fell out. We fell out at the time. Although saying that, you know, his relationship got better while I was at Stockport in York. And I remember going to watch Leeds were playing Ipswich when he was manager at Ipswich, and he invited me on the bus at Leeds. He invited me on the Ipswich bus and pre-match, and I had a coffee with him and spoke to all their directors and stuff like that. And he said, I tried to sign him. This is the one I tried to sign. So I didn't know anything about that till then. But apparently he tried to sign me at Ipswich, or he'd inquired. And so I enjoyed that. That was good. That was, and yeah, so when he came in, the lads, I'd tell him about what had happened previous time when I left. We made a mock P60 and I put it up on my peg. On my back, so when he come in, hey boy, you know, so yeah, so yeah, it was good. I mean, I think he'd always got in the back of his mind that I could, you know, at some stage, I could lose my temper still, which is that's me as a personality or whatever. But again, I enjoyed my time back there, and unfortunately, you know, I finished my career there and broke my leg in the next winning season.
Had the club changed at all from your first spell to your second spell, or was it all pretty much the same in terms of?
Yeah, it had changed. It had changed. As I say, it looked as though there were more money around. There were talk about moving at that time when I came back, and that was one of the things from Norton. He says, "Oh, I think there was going down to the Greyhound track at that time." And he said, by the time your contract finished, we'll be in the new club, in the new ground. So things were moving, things were getting better. And as I say, at that time, it was Chris McManamy who I signed. I signed under Chris. But then obviously John came in and yeah, and again, I think it was John's club, weren't it? I mean, John and Kevin and them guys, and you know, I mean, they were there. But yeah, again, loved it. There was different players in there. There was a lot, probably a younger squad. Obviously, I was, but you got a lot. I thought you've got the quality. Don't get me wrong. In 84, 85, we've got a lot of quality in there. A lot of old heads in there. People who know how to win. Speaking to, you know, lots of the players who I've played against, you know, they were on about how they hated coming to Chesterfield. They didn't want to play Chesterfield. They knew what they were going to get, you know. And that was, you know, yeah. I think they lost that a bit. And then when John came back in, obviously he brought some other old Reds in, Nicky and Laurie Madden. He came in as well at the time. So he brought some old Reds in again and changed the mentality. But the younger lads there, they got some, you know, there's some players. I mean, Kevin at 16 was my apprentice, and Kevin Davis, you know, he's my apprentice. He used to look after me with my boots and stuff, and my gloves and wash my kit through and things like that. Because before, we used to have to take his kit home. We couldn't have his kit. It wasn't washed at the club. Then we started, it was what you could get. It was what you could find. You know, if there were some spare shorts, get them, because you didn't know whether you'd get any more. Seriously, it was like that. The first kit was second down to the second team. The second team went to the youth kit, to the youth lads. So that's 3-year-old. And the youth lads would like, you know, some of them 15-year-old wearing kit, what were hanging off the sleeves hanging this far off the end of the, and that's how it was. And then when I came back, yeah, there was a lots of improvements that way. They changed it around a little bit, but it was just a perfect fit, I think, again for John to come in and you know, the success he had again with the Wembley win. I mean, I played the first 23, 24 games, I think it was. Broke my leg.
Yeah, it was Scunthorpe, wasn't it?
Yeah, Scunthorpe at home. And, you know, the lad tried to jump over the top of me, and he actually jumped on me as I went down at his feet. He wasn't, you know, it wasn't intentional. And it actually finished my career. You know, I didn't feel as though they were more concerned. I think the club were more concerned as, was I going to put weight on? Was I going to do this? Was I going to do that? And really, I didn't spend too much time thinking, well, let's get it healed first. And even over a year after, you could still see where the fracture was. I had complications. In there. Yeah, I had a muscle problem, and I had to have my leg cut down side to release the sheaths of my muscle. And I thought then I'm on my way back then. Then I had my stitches out, and I just wanted to play again. And I remember going back, and it was just his own free time. There was snow on the pitch, and we were having a bit of, shall we go and have a bit of goalkeeping? I said, I'm coming out now. I says, I've not been, you know, I'd not trained for months. I'd not had no goalkeeping for months. I weren't allowed, and I'm starting to get around on my feet a little bit more, and I've had this operation. They've took the stitches out, and I said, right, I'm back. And I remember they were smashing balls, and I'm diving all over in snow, and I'm loving it, absolutely loving it. And then next minute, Nicky said, what's that? And I got bottoms on, I got long bottoms on, and he could see blood. Anyway, I lifted my tracksuit bottoms up, and the cut, I don't know where you can see, the cut, it opened up like that. So it must have been probably 6 inch long, where they made the incision to do the sheath, and you could see my muscle twitching. So I had to go back to hospital. So I had the stitches out a day, or not even a day, a matter of hours. And the doc, I had to go back to the doc and have it stitched up again. So I had complications, but yeah, you could say Nick, as big and brave as he is, ran off from throwing up virtually. He couldn't stand it. Yeah, but again, so that was another setback I had. And as I said, I think there was more concern about how much weight I was going to put on and things like that, rather than my injury, really. I mean, you know, I was walking down, because I had a pin in, I didn't have, I had a nail in, I didn't have a pot. they got me walking around the ground, pulling tyres and walking up the steps and walking around, and it was just too much. It just never really healed, you know. It never really healed, and so I ended up having, you know, as I say, missed the games, played the first half of the games, and then I felt a bit bad. I felt a bit because obviously Andy Beasley came in after that, and we went on a great cut run, and we got to the final of the playoffs, and all the lads were going down on the Wednesday. I think they all went down on the Wednesday, and for what I'd done for that club and what I'd been through, I was told that I couldn't travel. I wasn't allowed to travel, but the club couldn't afford to travel, couldn't afford to take me down there. So I was told the club they couldn't afford to put me in a hotel for 4 days, although they did Andy Beasley, and said, well, it's a bit not fair on him as he played in semi-final, but I think I still played more games than anybody. As a keeper, I still played more games than anybody.
Yeah.
And I was took that away from me of going down and going to Emley as part of the club. And they said, well, you can travel down with the wives and girlfriends on the Saturday. And as much as it hurt, I refused to go. I didn't go. I refused to go.
Did you watch it on?
Yeah, well, I watched it in between. I watched it on telly, and I was watching cricket at the same time. I went to my cricket club where I was and watched it there, and watched a bit on telly, and yeah, it was just a bad day. It was just a bad day to see. I went to Wembley when they played Cambridge. I went to watch them there, and I really did want them to win, and I really wanted them to win then. But to be part of that season and then to be told that I wasn't going to be going to the pinnacle of the season, to the Wembley, I was gutted. Yeah, it turned a bit sour towards the end. And then, although I did have but it was never going to be fit. I was halfway through the following season. I wasn't under contract. I was out of contract, and I had to make the decision that I wasn't going to play pro football again. It's devastating, and you know, to have to do that, it's something not nice. It's, you know, to be told that you're not going to get to them areas what you were before. It's terrible.
Did you ever get a medal for that?
No, I didn't get a medal. They brought in Stewart. Jimmy, what was his first name? Stewart. They brought him in because obviously Bees got injured, and Jim Brown went on the bench, and Jim gave his medal to Billy Stewart. They brought in, and Jim gave his medal to Andy Beasley. But no, I never got a medal. As I say, they things what, as much as I love the club, that it were wrong. It were wrong. How I was treated was wrong at that time. I know that I spoke to him about a benefit, and I asked him about a benefit game. I'd been there for that length of time. I had to finish through injury, and I was told I couldn't have it. They wanted to have a shared one between me and Andy Beasley, and he didn't want a shared one. And I don't know why, because he'd only been there a couple of seasons. I mean, I'd spent a long time there, you know, but that's how it is, you know. I mean, so I never got a benefit. I never got the chance or anything again. So, which was disappointing.
Yeah, and you did carry on playing for a bit, didn't you? After that, kind of the most noticeable thing probably was, I was watching it this morning actually, was when you were up against West Ham for Emley. And it was Lampard and Hartson, wasn't it, scored in that match? Yeah,
that was absolutely crazy, mate. We started that season, and I went to Ronnie Glavin, who was at Barnsley, and Ian Banks. He was playing then at that time, and they asked me if I'd go down. So I went to Emley, and I still wasn't 100% fit. I still, you know, and we went on this cup run. It was a strange one because non-league, you thought, I'll go for a few beers. And we used to go up to, with Tony Bryan and Santi, we used to go to Fox and Goose, which badge run, So Len Badger, he was running it, and we used to go and have a few beers there with him on a Friday night, and then go into town for an hour. And Danny Wilson used to go up there as well on a Friday. He was manager at Barnsley at the time. And we all used to have a good few hours, and then we used to go into town. Anyway, what happened was, the first game was against Durham City. First round, I think it was second qualifier, I think, something like that. Might have been first qualifier, I don't know. But we went to Durham City, and I'd had a few drinks. I'd had a few, and I'm thinking I've got to get rid of the smell of this beer tomorrow before I get on that bus. So I ordered a garlic pizza. I went to Chattanooga's in Chesterfield and ordered a pizza, but I said, put plenty of garlic on, plenty of garlic on, plenty of garlic on. So they did do, and I had this pizza. Next morning, gets up to Emley, get on the bus, and Ronnie says, who's been on Italian? I said, I have. I went down, Gaffer, and had an Italian last night. So anyway, so we won 5-0, I think it was. The next round we was up there again. We was up at Workington away again. So I went up to there, and again, I've gone up to on the Friday. We've gone out. Badger's there, and Danny's there, and we have a few, and same things happened. I had a few, probably one too many or whatever, and I thought I've got to get another garlic pizza. So I go, and it becomes right, okay. Went into town, went home with this garlic pizza full of garlic, swimming with garlic butter, eating it, dribbling down my face. I thought, right, okay, get on the bus next time. And Gaff says, have you been for the Italian again? I went, yeah. I said, yeah, I went to get there. He says, oh, we better keep it going. Anyway, the foreign game was Belper at home at Emley. And we won that one. And again, the same rate. And by this time now, Badge and Danny's more or less encouraging me to go and get a garlic pizza, get a few beers, get a garlic pizza, mate. You're on a roll here. You can't, you've got to keep going. So we're through to the third round, and there's things in the papers. Where's Emley? And all you can see with this big mask, and that's where they're saying it is. And we're down there, and West Ham are unbeaten at home this season. We go down there in January. Third round, I think it is January. We go down there, third round, and I think everybody in Emley went to London. There was nobody in the village. Matt Wood, who played cricket for Yorkshire, opening batter. He works for the PCA at the moment now, and I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago. But he was playing cricket in New Zealand, and he came back for the weekend. He came back to watch the game. He flew back and then went back after the game. He missed the game down there. And he was contracted with it, and he actually came over. But yeah, in Emley, everybody was left. And so somebody decided, and they actually broke into the club that night when we was all down at West Ham. They actually broke into the club and pinched all the money and stuff out of the club and out the slot machines and everything. But yeah, we went down there, and we was, again, it was absolutely unbelievable, Artson, Ferdinand, Lampard, Lazaridis. Unbelievable. They got a right side out. We're all part-time. We just having a laugh, we're having a sing-song, we're all out and about, we're just taking it if it comes. We stopped down the night before. I actually go on radio. They're having a team. I'm actually going on radio on Talksport, and all about these penalties I've saved, and talking about the next game. And they're saying, surely, what do you think the score? I said, anything under 7 or 8 will be good. I'd be happy if we were anything under 7 or 8, and because it was like that. And we got there, and one of our lads, he actually went in the hamstring. He pulled an hamstring. As we pushed up, he pulled an hamstring, and he left Lampard on side. And they played a ball through, and he's on the floor in his 18-yard box. And everybody else is pushed up, and he's on a 1-to-1. So Lampard's on a 1-to-1, breaks and scores, and that's after 3 or 4 minutes. And we think, so as centre halves got off, we're 1-0 down. I'm thinking, this is going to, what's going to happen now? And we actually got into the game, and we hit the post, and we hit the bar. Then we scored and made it 1-1. And I remember looking up at the behind our goal, looking up at the scoreboard, and just busting out laughing. West Ham won, Emley won, 89 minutes, and I'm thinking this is crazy, you know. And then, as I say, Hartson scored. I mean, I say now I should have come for the cross. It was Lazaridis put one in, and it tempted me, and I didn't, and he come for the cross, and yeah, he scored, and yeah, it was. But even then, I mean, you know, we were down, we were that. Although it started to be a reality, and the lads were really, really upset. And to be fair to Redknapp, Harry Redknapp, he came in our dressing room. He said, we can't have a players' bar, guys. I'm ever so sorry. He says, our lads have been done drink driving all the time. He says, so I've closed the players' bar. But the social club round the corner, I've asked them to open it for you. You've got a free bar. And he gave us a free bar. He said, we've got a wedding coming in at such and such a time. Well, that's your bar. He says, you have been an absolute credit. Anyway, we went around there, and yeah, we had an hour in there. Then he came over and he joined us. He didn't let none of their players come in, but he come and joined us, and we had a drink with him and that. And then we stopped over at Tower Thistle, and we had a party that night. And watching ourselves on Match of the Day as well. That was, you know, so a lot of these guys just playing Sunday League, not contracted, just playing Sunday League football. And then one or two of them actually made good moves from there. Glyn Hurst obviously came to Chesterfield after. Hurst he was there, and Ian Banks, who played a lot at Barnsley, he was there, and he actually went with Nick, obviously, at Chesterfield and to Bradford as manager and assistant. And so yeah, but that was, I never got in third round of the cup only once in 12 years as a footballer. As a pro, never got in the third round once, apart from once. And that was with Stockport, and we ended up playing Lake Norrie away and getting beat 1-0. So that was the highlight of FA Cup for me. But to go non-league with a group of lads who were firemen and rat catcher and all sorts of stuff, really, and to do what we did was, you know, and a goalkeeper who's got a broken leg and still couldn't kick it properly or whatever. And we got there, and yeah, it was fantastic. We just fell short of promotion as well that year.
But Paul Kitson seemed to have a clear opening. And now there's an opening for Lampard! And that is a goal. It's taken 3 minutes and 50 seconds for West Ham to find a way through. No one picked up Frank Lampard Jr. And Chris Marples, the goalkeeper, was left completely stranded. Ian Banks to take the kick. Plenty of movement for him as well. David! And it's into the net! Paul David met the ball with a leaping header, and Emley, the minnows from the Unibond League, have equalised at Upton Park. Lazaridis. 3 in the box for West Ham. Hudson! At what quite probably is the 6th time of asking, the flame-haired Welshman finds the back of the Emley net.
So final question from me. I just wondered, if you had to choose between a really good catch in cricket or a really good save in a football match, which would you go for?
It's an hard one. I've got it. I think it was when I was with York. I made one similar to Banks' save off Pelly, and I got that. I've seen that on somewhere, and I got that somewhere. And that was probably. I'd say that's probably my best save. That was probably my best save. I think point blank stuff. I think that was, you know, cricket wise. Yeah, although I was in football a lot longer, but cricket, I took it was the day after the Bournemouth game when we played Bournemouth on the Saturday, and I played a televised game against Hampshire. And Mike Lolding was bowling, and he got one to nip back, and I dived full length left-handed and caught it, inched off the floor, and I enjoyed that one. But I think The one I enjoyed the most, and it was just because of it was, and it was Viv Richards. We played at Derby. We were playing Somerset at Derby, and Ull Mortensen had got the ball going all over the place, and there was something like 3 down for single figures, and he got 100 before lunch. Viv came in with his swagger, and just to be there and see that and watch that and play with the world's best. And that was something at cricket. That's what you did, because you know, you're in that area. You are playing with. I was playing with the world's best. I was playing with some of the best players who's ever played cricket in their lives. You know, and to be part of that, I feel very privileged. I feel very honoured, you know, to have done that. And same as at football, yeah, lower divisions, but some of the Chesterfield players and, you know, some of these guys, you know, God rest him, Ernie. You know, what an unbelievable person he was, unbelievable player he was, and it's such a sad loss. And I just wish he could have seen us go up. I think, you know, if that would have been, because he was still going to the games, and I know his family, you know, still would have liked that. And I mean, it's just sad that that's not happened. But yeah, so as I say, Viv Richards, he nicked one and he got 123, just probably 2 or 3 overs. He got 100 before lunch. Now I've dived full length and caught one, and that was just something else. Just to be caught, Viv Richards caught Marples, fantastic.
Come and listen to my story about a man named Jed. A poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground come a bubbling crude oil, that is, black gold, Texas tea. Well, the first thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. The kinfolk said, Jed, move away from there. Said, California is the place you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is, swimming pools, movie stars.
The Beverly Hillbillies.